All right, so I am here to talk to you today about getting things done using one of Plone's, what I would consider lesser known but more useful features, content rules. And when we talk about content rules, we need to ask ourselves first, what is a content rule? And to answer that question, I'd like to talk first about what is content management, because content rules are really kind of tightly tied to this idea of managing your content over time. We have content in websites. Maybe we have pages that people have created that they want to have put out there into the world, or maybe we have event listings for conferences that people might want to attend where they need to know that there's going to be important talks about fuzzy puppies and content rules and things like that. Maybe we have breaking news that we want to expose to the outside world, something really important that's happening. Or perhaps we have products that we're trying to sell to somebody that we want them to be able to get access to. In addition to all of this content that we've created, we also have users who come and interact with our website. So we have folks who are users of the website, we have folks who are administrators of the website, we may have folks who are members of the website and are allowed to create or manage content over time by publishing or editing or doing other things like that. Our users can interact with each other in social ways using the tools that we build for them into our website, or they can take actions like publishing content out to the world at large. Really, it's all about them creating things that they want to share with people, or editing things that they've created, publishing the stuff that they've created so that the general world can see it or a controlled audience can interact with it, moving those things around to reorganize them over time, and even deleting content when it's no longer of any use to them in order to clean up the material that you're showing to people and make sure that you're not disseminating information that's no longer valid. All of these actions that users take are, in a sense, events. Things that happen in your website. Maybe we create a new user, or a user logs in, or somebody creates a new page, or somebody decides to publish something. All of these things are events. And we can take events and tie them to actions that our website takes automatically. This is what the idea of content rules is. Events that your users, the people that are interacting with your website, are taking on their own, which then cause other actions within the website to take place automatically. We call these content rules. And it's a little bit difficult to kind of explain them without actually just giving you a demonstration of what a content rule is and how you might use them. So what I'd like to do for the next couple of minutes here is talk about fuzzy puppies. This is the Fuzzy Puppies website. It's a very friendly website. You can see there's all sorts of nice things here, upcoming events that somebody might want to get involved in, lots of beautiful content that we're sharing out to the world about our puppies and how fuzzy and cute and happy they are. And as we're managing our content, maybe we decide that the Fuzzy Puppy show is no longer applicable. Maybe it got canceled. The Fuzzy Puppy headquarters got burned to the ground or something like that. And so we are no longer able to actually hold our show there. We want to make that content disappear. But maybe we also want to hold on to that content, right? Because we don't want necessarily to delete something. Maybe we want to keep a historical archive of the materials that we've been working with over time. So we can log into our website as the manager of fuzzypuppies.com here, and we're going to log right in. And once we're logged in as the manager of the website here, we can go over and we can click on our login, our personal tools button, go to the control panel at the back, and we find ourselves the content rules control panel. And here we're going to be able to set ourselves up actions that we want to take place. But let's go back home to Fuzzy Puppies for just a moment here. And what we'll show you is the contents of the Fuzzy Puppies website. We also have, in addition to the content that we're doing, a little folder here that we're going to call Obsolete Items. So this is a place we want to put our archived content, things that are no longer relevant to the outside world, but that we might want to hang on to in an archive kind of style. So again, we'll go back to our site setup as the manager or the site administrator of the website. We'll get a chance to go here to our Content Rules tab, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a content rule. And let's talk for a moment about what our goal here is. What we'd like to be able to do is to allow our editors, when they make a particular workflow transition, maybe they want to mark a piece of content as obsolete, they should be able to make a transition in workflow that says this is obsolete, and then when they have done so, the content will disappear from where it is, will get moved to the archive folder, it will get changed to be private so that it isn't visible to the outside world anymore, but we still have a record of the fact that that thing existed at some point in time. So we're going to add a content rule in order to accomplish this. And into our rule, we'll say that maybe this is the archive content rule. And we will say when a user makes content obsolete, it will be archived. And what we need to do first is to pick the event that we want our users to take that is going to result in the action that we want to have happen. For us, what we would like to do is to listen for instances of the workflow state changing. There are a number of different actions up here. We'll see what some of the other ones are, but for us right now, we want to think about workflow state changing. So we set up our rule to happen whenever a workflow state is changed, and we'll say that our rule should be enabled, and we'll save that rule. Now, this is not yet a fully functional content rule. What we've done is we've said that whenever a workflow state changes in our website, we want something to happen. But we haven't said what we want to have happen. And we also haven't yet really narrowed it down. We don't want all workflow state changes to result in this, only particular ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a condition to our content rule. The condition that we're going to do is to listen for a particular workflow transaction or transition. So whenever a particular transition is made, we will take an action in response to that. So we're going to add a condition for workflow transition, and what we're going to do is we're going to listen for the make content obsolete transition. This is a lightly customized copy of Plone's own built-in workflow. I just added one workflow state transition here called make obsolete, and so we're going to listen for that. That will be the condition that determines whether or not our content rule is applied. Next, we need to take an action. So what we want to do is over here in add action, we would like to move our piece of content to a particular folder. We'll say add for that, and then we're given the opportunity here to go searching for a place where we want our stuff to go. We would like it to go into the Obsolete Items folder. So we'll click on that as our location, and we'll say save. The other thing we want to make sure of is that once we have actually moved this thing, it's no longer published, so that it isn't visible despite the fact that we have moved it to somewhere else. So we are also going to transition workflow state on this object and take two actions. We'll say add. We come here and we say we would like to make this piece of content private or hide it, and we can save it. And now if we're logged into our website as just a typical user or an editor, somebody who has the ability to manage content over time, our user can come back to the home page here, and they can say, oh, you know, the Fuzzy Puppy Show got canceled. The Fuzzy Puppy Lodge burned to the ground. It was a horrible, horrible event. The show isn't going to go on. The puppies are very sad, and so are we. So what we need to do is come to our workflow here and say we would like to make this obsolete. And when we do so, it has now changed its workflow. Oh, whoops, I forgot to do one more thing. You notice it didn't move, right? The reason it didn't move is because although I have created this content rule, I have not applied the content rule somewhere. It is active, but I must tell Plone where this content rule should take place. So I will go back to my home folder, and I will come down here to the rules button in our interface, and we will say we would like to have the archive content rule be active at the root of the site. So we're going to add that, and by default the content rule will apply not only to this folder but to any subfolders that are inside it, so throughout our entire site. We can also disable that so that it only happens within a particular location. We can also temporarily disable the rule in this particular location, but for the time being, we're just going to leave it exactly like it is. So now we'll go back to our fuzzy puppy show. And this time we'll say, for real, we would like to make our content obsolete. And when we do so, you'll see that now we are looking at the Home tab. And that's because if we check our contents, the Fuzzy Puppy Show is actually now inside Obsolete Items. It has automatically been transitioned. You'll notice it is also private, whereas before it had been published. So this is a useful case. In fact, I used this myself in a website that I used to run for the University of Washington. We had a department whose job it was to manage grants and grant applications and so on and so forth. And the folder that they all did their work in was a folder that they had access to all the items, but the grantees, the people who were actually writing out the grant proposals, were only supposed to have information about the documents that belonged to them. And so these documents were placed in a private state and then shared individually with the owners of the grants, the primary investigator. And what happened quite often, or at least once, before we yelled at them and figured this out, was that one of the persons who was managing the grant accidentally pushed the publish button and took all the information that was there about the finances of this particular grant and accidentally published it to all of the people in the department. It only lasted a few minutes before they figured out what they had done, but it called into question whether or not we should really allow them to do things like that, right? It really caused a problem. And so this brings me to the second application that I'll have for content rules here, which is that I don't know that you've noticed this, but our Fuzzy Puppies website isn't really just about fuzzy puppies, right? It's actually also a front for the New World Order and for a secret plans for world domination. And because it's a front for this, and there's all of this information in here about our secret plans for world domination and Skippy the Squirrel, who is our dear leader, and so on and so forth, we don't want this material to be published, right? This is vital internal stuff that all of the core members of our site should be able to see, but we don't want the world in general to be able to see this. So we would like to make it so that somebody can't accidentally go and press the publish button and suddenly turn all of our material that is about secret world domination public on our website, so that anybody can find out that fuzzy puppies are in fact evil and seeking world domination. So we're going to go back again to our site control panel here, and we'll go to the site setup, and we're going to add a new content rule. And this content rule is going to have the purpose of making sure that nobody ever publishes anything in the location where it is applied. So we're going to add a content rule here, and we'll make this the keep it secret, keep it safe rule. Don't let them find out about our plans. And again, this time what we're going to do is look for workflow states that have been changed. And we'll have this rule enabled, and we will say save. And then we're going to say the condition for this is that we would like to look for the final workflow state to which we are going. And we'll add that, and we'll say, okay, anything that is publicly visible or visible to people in the outside world that might be a place that we don't want something to be seen, we're going to select all of those workflow states. So any end state that is not private, we would like to listen for events that move our content into those states. And what action do we want to take in response to this? Well, we would like to have a transition of workflow states from whatever it is that they set it to private. So we will go ahead and move it back to private immediately. So we'll save this content rule. This will keep all of our stuff safe. Nobody will be able to see our secret plans, and we need to go over to the secret plans folder and to our rules tab. And then when we're on the rules tab, whoops, here we go, yeah, content rules, we are going to select here the keep it secret, keep it safe rule. And we'll say for this particular location, if anybody should attempt to publish something, that thing will automatically be transitioned back. But wait, that's not enough. Because I've got lots of users and I don't want to just prevent them from publishing things without also telling them the reason why. So I would like to actually go back to my site setup and add one more thing to my content rule here. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say for my keep it secret, keep it safe, in addition to transitioning something back, I would like to notify the user who took this action. So I'm going to say I'd like to add something here, and my message is going to be something like, hey, stop. You must not publish our secret plans. And we're going to make this a warning message because we want to be stern about this and make sure our users understand it. So we'll save that action as a second action to take here. Now, if we go back to our secret plans and somebody accidentally happens to click on this and say, well, you know, I like this secret plan. I would like to take the secret plan for the New World Order, and I would like to publish that. So I'm going to promote it to a draft and let the outside world see it. And what will happen as a result is that it will be transitioned back to private. And I will get a warning that says, don't do that. If I could make like a little screen pop up with a little death's head and then no, I would do that. But I don't have that ability quite yet for my workflow rules. So content rules can be very useful in kind of dealing with the sort of human resources issues that come with a content management project. Right? This is a solution to a problem that's a little bit less technical than hiring a developer to build for you a custom workflow that prevents publication in this one particular location. You can use content rules as a site administrator or as a manager to cover your bases and to try to conquer some of those kind of human management problems that come along with any content managed website. Returning quickly to the presentation here then, I'd like to point out that on the Plone site there is really good documentation for content rules and how they work. I'd also like to point out that content rules themselves are actually extensible. The built-in action triggers that are present in Plone itself out of the box are numerous and plentiful, but there's lots of other things that you might want to listen for. And there are add-ons that are available that will extend both the actions you can listen for, or the events you can listen for rather, and the actions that you can take, and the conditions that you might use to narrow down your content rules selection. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this point. Jean. It does actually transition the object and then transition it back. Yeah, it's a totally inefficient and awful way of solving this particular problem, but it really works. And when I ran into this problem in radiology, if I wanted to fix the problem by recreating workflow, which I could totally have done, I'm a Plone developer after all, it would have taken me a day or so, maybe 2 days, to work out all of the issues, to get the workflow set up correctly. And this was a problem that needed fixing right now. And I went and set this up in our website, and it took me all of 3 minutes to create the rule and to apply it to the folder where that rule was supposed to be applied. And that was it, right? Now the job is done. The rules are being applied the place I want them to be. The problem is fixed. There's a Band-Aid on that bleeding wound. Now we can go and fix the problem in a better way, right? But you know, if you don't have a developer at hand, or you are not yourself a developer, these can be very decent ways of solving some of those problems that come up in managing your content. Yes?
Can you give us some other examples where you would use, or where you have, or where you would use this?
So that's the biggest one that I've done publicly. The third rule that I was going to show was to set up one where when somebody logs into the puppy's website, I send an email to myself to let me know that somebody is logging in. And that way you can actually keep track of who's logging in and logging out of the website and when they do so. For example, some of the actions that are available to you when you're creating these rules, if we go back to the site setup here, some of the actions that are available to you to take in response to content rules include things like writing information to a log. right? So we can log when users are created or log when users log in, log when particular pieces of content are deleted. If you want to establish an audit trail for the people who screw up in your website and accidentally blow things up, this is a very useful thing to be able to do. I could imagine also potentially putting something on like the changing of a view, right? Or the display method for a particular folder to say, whenever somebody comes in and changes the way that content in this area is displayed, let us know so that we can, warn them sternly about doing that. Because as Franco was pointing out earlier, it's not infrequent that somebody will accidentally break a view by changing to something that they don't know how to get back to the correct view. Of course you haven't. Not you. Not you, of course. Charles, on the other hand.
Or when they crash the site because they changed the view to full summary of all items, and the folder has hundreds of items in it.
Yeah, there's another very good one. Yeah. So there's definitely other uses that one could put this to. The number of actions that are available directly doesn't seem like a lot right off the bat, but there's a lot of things you can do with just these actions to be taken. Wayne?
There are two other actions that I needed, so I haven't brought into Plone 5. One is mail to group, which is very useful.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he did that. There's one little bug in it, so hopefully he'll fix it this Saturday.
Nice.
But that's really important. And another one is a reminder. So if you have an event, and your event, you set it up for today and it's in a week, you can set it up to send an auto reminder a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever before.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
Cool. So those rules are available.
I'll send you the links, because I want to get them out there. I didn't get them to.
No, terrific. We absolutely should get those out there and get them up and published. The add-on ecosystem for this is still developing for Plone 5. There are some of them that have been updated. They are all available for Plone 4, the ones that I was showing from the PyPy website. But there's a lot of good things that you can do with content rules. I find them to be content management is more a human problem than it is a technical problem.
Oh, let me write that down.
And I, as a programmer, have a very hard time admitting that because I would like every problem to be solvable through technology, right?
Yeah.
But that's not really the case. It's actually the case that most of the problems you face with these kinds of sites and these kinds of projects are human. And this is a human-facing, relatively straightforward way of solving some of those problems without having to, engage the services of a programmer. Yes, Wayne.
I was using something and I posted on the community and they were saying it was not a good thing to do, so I'm curious. If you create, the way it is now, if you create, if you're outside of an event tab, if you're anywhere else,
Yeah.
and if you create an event, it goes in that folder.
Ah.
Now it'll show up, I think it shows up in the event because it's a collection. I'm anal and I want stuff to be in the right folder.
You'd like them to be
Where
created in the
the
right place.
Refrigerator closes, I want to know the lights out.
Yeah.
So I use the move to folder. So in other words, in this example, if you, anywhere on the site, if you create a content type called event,
Yeah.
it gets moved to that folder.
Yeah, because we can have a condition on the type of content that you've created,
Right.
use move to folder to just transport it magically to the right
What
place.
they were saying is it's an issue that means with permissions you can create, if you can create an event, it doesn't matter where you create it. Because you have permission to create the event, right?
Yeah.
So moving it,
I can.
have the same problem you do, so that's a good solve for me, because we have multiple content creators, and we can't get them to follow our rules, so.
About where
having
things should
something
go.
like that is great.
Yeah, I mean, the typical Plone solution is simply to say that you cannot create events unless you're sitting in the event folder by using restrictions.
we don't know that.
But that's the problem, right? Then you have people who come to the site and say, well, I can't create an event. Why is this site broken? And it's difficult to explain to them that it's not broken, it's just that they're using it wrong.
And then the 5-year-old response, which is, but why?
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, Stefan, you look a little ambiguous about the whole idea of moving content on creation time. So
Well, it's tough, right? Because you have this entire permission inheritance going on. And
Yes.
You might do things that you did not intend to do this way.
yeah. So you do have to be careful about the way that you're rigging these things up. But I think if you are cautious and careful and think through the implications, it can be a solution. Yeah, Jean.
You always to create any form that you like with Plone Form Gen.
Yeah.
And when you save the form, you make it create some Plone content.
Yes, the UWASH PF2DC, I think it's called. Yeah.
And so then you've got
Really lovely name, that one. But it's a great add-on.
those can trigger content.
Well, this is the other thing, right? I mean, there are certain situations that you can get into, especially if you have rules which trigger other rules, where you can end up in loops that don't terminate. So you have to be a little bit cautious about when you use, in particular, the buttons down here that say stop evaluating content rules after this action, or the actions executed by this rule can trigger other rules. Those are things that you may need to fiddle with in order to get the site to behave the way that you want it to.
What does the first one mean? The second one?
The first one means that if this rule, when this rule finishes, if there are any other rules that were scheduled to go off,
Oh, okay.
don't do them. This is it, right? This is the rule to end all rules. Once it's finished, processing of other rules finishes.
So does that mean, sorry, if like in a folder, if you had multiple content rules, if this was the first one,
It would
ran,
prevent other things.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I think that's about it. All we have time for. We went a little bit longer than I was supposed to. I apologize for that, but thank you very much for coming, and I hope that you find useful applications for content rules in your Plone websites.
we shall.